world, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in as always. I'm Dusty, that's Maddie Girl, and this is the Shred Academy. Today we're going to be checking out a number of different ways you could be leaving the lip that make it feel really awful and you want to progress, and maybe seeing and hearing how you're leaving the lip will encourage you to go check out some of my other video catalog, because we want you to become a better jumper and have more fun on your bike. That's what it's about. So if you do see yourself in this video, make sure you go check out the rest of my video catalog. I'm pretty sure that they'll help you progress, and if they don't, please hit me up with how I can help you progress your jumping skills. Let's get to it so I can take her for a walk. Okay, we're gonna break down a number of bad jumping techniques in hopes that you'll be able to pick out maybe what's going wrong with your jumping, and possibly motivate you to check out some of my other videos to learn some proper jumping techniques. So our first improper jumping technique is basically sitting off the back of the bike, off of the lip. Now this can cause several problems. The first one is, as you enter this lip and you start to sink your weight down into the back of the bike, that is preloading this rear suspension. If you're not going to release that energy stored in this rear shock correctly, you're going to find that as you leave, it's actually trying to buck you up and forward over the bike. Now this can cause you to either want to go over the bars, which we'll see a little more in another clip, but it can also cause you to have to sink your weight farther back to try to counteract that front wheel wanting to dive. Now another thing it can cause is that weird kind of mid-air bar hump, if you will, and he kind of starts to do it right here as he's falling. And he's trying to do that to get himself from, work with me stylus, from being back here off the lip, trying to get back into a position where he feels comfortable trying to then direct the bike into the landing. So he's almost trying to bar hump to pull himself back to center, because when you're in midair and have nothing to push the tire against, you're basically just pulling the bike up and down, or pulling yourself down to the bike, which we'll see here in a little bit. And as he lands, you can see he's going to land rear tire heavy, which can be really bad, cause you to loop out, and nobody likes a scratched bum. Our next improper form is going to be trying to jump forward across the jump. A lot of people really want to get from point A and just get themselves to point B, and they're really scared of what they're trying to actually do, which is incur some hang time here. And so they'll try to jump off the lip and actually try to jump forward on their bike. Now, what can this cause? As soon as I leave the lip, notice my front wheel will start to dive. Not only the rebound of your fork is kind of enabling, or we're gonna call initiate, this kind of front wheel like getting pulled back forward. So it's our job to stop that. But as you can see here, as I leave the lip forward, boom, my front wheel is basically diving forward off the lip. And all this weight that I've kind of trying to get across is causing me to get bucked off of my rear suspension here, even though I didn't preload a whole lot of that. See, and now I've got to get into that rear seat to try to counteract going over the bars, and as well maybe even try to help brace for this impact that's about to happen. And nobody wants to go OTB. So trying to jump across the jump can also cause you several problems, not only just getting across, but landing safely. Don't go OTB. Our next clip is of a rider who is actually having correct form, starting going off the lip, but then they get scared right at the edge and they start to hunch back down into the bike. Now, I'll say this doesn't create a whole lot of problems, other than you stopping your explosion and upward motion of your body gives this bike kind of nowhere to go as it leaves the lip. And then you've got to kind of do these funky body motions here to get that bike back from under you. And you're squashing your whole trajectory or flight path right back down onto that tabletop. Accepting that you're gonna go in the air, and that's happening right about here. They decide, no, and it's literally not gonna gain you a whole lot more air, but it definitely feels like that because your body is gonna be taller off the ground. So what they'll do is it just drop their body to feel safer, but it's actually inhibiting the bike from going through its actual motions. And even here, if the rider decided to kind of try to put the rear tire down here, they could end up going off the back of the bike and looping out. Our last and final, but my favorite worst way to leave the lip is going to be that stand up to the jump that the internet created years back and loved. Now, there's a lot that can go wrong here with this, but let's start from the beginning of it. The first thing that's going to happen with this style is the rider is going to come in, they're going to compress right at the bottom of the lip, usually by forcing all their weight down into that suspension. Now, as they travel up the lip, because there's no way from this forceful suspension preload that they're going to be able to hold their suspension at that fully compressed state that it gets to, about midway up the jump, you're going to see them start to actually jump up like they're trying to block a jump shot, just like I do here. What the rider is feeling is a big pull on their shoulders as their arm reaches its full maximum length, and that's when they're then trying to bring the bike up with them all at one time, basically just with their shoulders. Or if you're clipped in, you'll completely cheat and kind of suck the bike up into you directly from here, and it's going to look even more awkward. Now, one thing you're doing when you're jumping like this is you're adding a whole nother bike length that you're giving yourself to gravity before you're actually trying to make it across. What I mean by that is right here, I'm more or less weightless. I've given myself to gravity. Now, other riders who are doing this correctly will be using this time to be forcing themselves or their feet or legs into the lip of the jump, creating rear suspension preload. And then by the time they get to right here, this is the time when they're actually giving themselves to gravity and jumping up as the bike is leaving, so they can leave the ground together and not prematurely back here. Right here. The bike's not done leaving the lip yet, but you're saying, I'm ready to leave the lip now. Now what that causes is about here, luckily I'm going fast enough to make it across before you actually see me start to fall into the bike. If you're getting to about here and you're feeling yourself fall into the bike, that's because you've given yourself to gravity all the way back here. If you give yourself to gravity here with proper form, you're going to feel like you're not coming down till you've left my view of vision, when you can actually see the bike starting to fall right here. Okay, but I'm not able to do any body bike movements in the air because I've got nothing to kind of initiate that body bike motion against. If I was using proper form here, I could be here, head, arms, creating rear shock preload, and then right at this point, I could be using all these tension points I've created to kind of create a forward momentum across the jump, in which I'll be able to pick the bike up with me as I leave, roll the handlebars forward, and even use my toes here to kind of scoop backwards to help pick the back end of the bike up and roll it forward as we're kind of traveling midway through the jump. None of that can happen if you're just blocking a jump shot off the lip of the jump. It's super common, it's super easy for beginners to jump this way, but it leads to bad habits that are super hard to correct once you've kind of been like, okay, I can clear a 5-foot tabletop with this method, which is great, but as you get to bigger jumps, as your riding progresses, it's not going to cut it and you're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I've talked a whole lot. Let's just quickly check out a proper form of jumping, which you can go find in my other videos, which I encourage you to check out, starting with the J-hop. Then you can go into jumps, and then we have tons of other videos that you can move on to from there. Lastly, we're going to check out this correct jump form here. And I'm not going to spend too long on this because I encourage you to go check out my other videos, which we break down this form of J-hop, leaving the lip, quite thoroughly. Let's zoom out here. What the rider, or me, is doing going into this clip, we always come in a relaxed attack position. We don't want to come in all hunched down. Then at the bottom of the lip, I do a small body weight preload. I'm not trying to force that suspension down. I'm about to do that. Then we shift our hips back into the rear third of that bike, and we accept this transition change. Notice my upper body accepting that transition change, and my arms are kind of extending here because I'm about to initiate a front wheel lift like you would do in a J-hop right as my front wheel leaves. All my weight still on this rear tire. At this point, I'm creating rear shock preload. You can almost see my rear shock getting compressed there. Look at that linkage facing down into that down tube. Zoom back out. Now I'm going to keep traveling up the lip as I'm putting pressure into that rear suspension, as well at the same time using my upper body as a counterweight to keep this front wheel driving up into the air, not letting it fall forward. Then at the very last half or bike length, maybe quarter bike length, I'm going to start what I call the explosion, which is getting my body moving up and forward over the bike so that as the bike leaves, I can jump up and I can actually aid the bike in going up and direct it forward and down across the jump and land comfortably and confidently. Kind of see this happen right here. You'll see me kind of pull my body forward, get myself back over the bike, and that's when I pick the bike up and start to level it out and roll it forward. All this time right here, basically, I'm accepting the air time. I want to go high. That's why I'm here to jump. And in fact, I've made this quote-unquote jump shorter by almost a bike length or 3/4 of a bike length by keeping my weight on that rear tire going over the hip. And look how far my front tire is over this jump already. That's at least 2 to 3 feet that I've taken off the actual distance I have to travel in the air across the jump, which is going to get me to that sweet spot even easier. Now, again, I go through this a ton in my other videos, so if you want to learn more about this, go to my video catalog. Check them out. I've got tons, all different types of topics. All right, guys, that's going to do it for the video and our walk today. If you thought that one of these riders felt like you, please go check out one of my other videos. I'm sure that I've got one that pertains to what you're having issues with. If I don't, whether it be jumping, cornering, descents, that ding means it's time to check out the rest of my catalog. Anyway, guys, I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a comment. We'd love for you to become a Patreon, help us survive, pay the bills, feed the dog. Everything you guys give to us, whether it be your patronage, your super thank through PayPal or whatever, goes to this channel just surviving. It's all we want to do, so thank you for tuning in. As always, ride hard, ride safe, like, share, subscribe. say hi to Maddie Dog and give her a pet if you ever see her. She'd love it. And we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys. Load up.